Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilruth, darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian, done with International Ideas Month, having to finally come up with another original one. So I want to wish you all a very happy National Handmade Day.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
I'm leaning into that. Okay, keep going.
I want to encourage listeners. So you won't get any prizes, but please send us the pictures of your best handmade items in the realm of home improvement and just home in general.
Well, I think, yeah, okay.
One of my favorite ones is when Norman, our buddy Norman Rockwell, he sent something that said, well, since we're relabeling things, let me just call this a automatic hole puncher or whatever, and it's a gun.
Okay. Yeah, let's stay clear of that. Okay, but Max, you have to allow it a lot of other things because, I mean, I've seen some pretty impressive quilts and other. Let's just leave it handmade is wide open. How about that? So.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I thought there was another holiday you were going to mention, though.
Oh, National Peeps Day.
Yeah. Allan, do you eat those? The Peeps, those little rubbery
All right, by
marshmallow?
definition, a food has to be able to do something for you.
Yeah.
No.
Even as a kid, I hated those things. There's something unnatural
Now
about them.
they're fun to play with in a microwave.
Yeah. Now, could there be applications in a situation where it could be tool? Okay, I'm workshopping here. A peep. What if you needed a temporary support for something just to get like that little gap or something, and then to dissolve it, you just hose it down and it melts and goes away.
Oof.
I don't know.
I don't need that kind of ants on my job site.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, if you hate Peeps as well, then, and if you're a Peep manufacturer out there, no offense, but okay. Well, Max, I thought you would mention First Contact Day because in 38 years from now, folks, Zephram Cochrane is going to invent the warp. He's going to take a nuclear bomb and invent the very first warp drive and make first contact with the Vulcans. So I hope I'm around for that. That's going to be good.
Isn't that kind of interesting that he turned a weapon into something positive?
Exactly.
You're going to be like 97 if this happens.
I hope so. But anyway, there's a lot on the table. But here we go, Allan. We've got a little bit of a backlog because last week, with our buddy Jay Hill, the conversation always gets away from us. So we definitely have to circle back to your week in review, which I'm not going to itemize because it looks like it was another busy one. A little bit of combat and a little bit of creativity.
Oh, my gosh. I got to tell you, trying to install a creepy basement door is an adventure.
Oh, yeah. So we've got that. And then we are going to circle back because in our history of great building materials, we're going to be continuing our conversation about wood because we just got going and then the time ran out and everything. And folks, we haven't abandoned our great moments in building history. This is sort of a subset. We'll get back to those, but this is kind of an interesting little sidebar that we're doing. So let's see. Okay, you're going to like this one. I'm calling this a tool tale for lack of a better term. What do you think of this? Preemptively purchasing items that are hard to find after an emergency. We're going to talk about
you mean what I do for a living?
Yeah. And folks, I know from the mind of Max, you're really interested in learning about city planning and how they adapt to storm drainage and things like that.
I thought thought another Mind of Max thing was my inquiry about whether or not we could cooperate with pests.
I got that on the list too. I got two things here, but it's a combination from the Mind of Max and Ask Allan because I don't know about this, but you do, right? City planning and drainage, which boy, we sure needed it this week.
Memphis is actually a shining example of that. So yes, we have a lot to unpack on that.
Yeah, and exactly. So and boy, I'm just reminded of why I could never live in Seattle, man. I mean, what have we had? About 4 days of this rain, and I'm already depressed. I just want
we got
gone.
2 more to go.
Or like London.
Oh, can you imagine it just raining constantly? I don't know, man. I'm just not cut out for that. I like sunshine and blue skies. So
I have lived in swamps, I have lived in desert, and I have lived in the Mid-South. And yeah, it's you just basically get used to the weather where you're at.
I guess. I don't know, man. It affects my mood. So
the thing about Memphis is that it's in the middle of the country, so it gets a little bit of everything.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. But before we get to any of those things, Let's get to our must-have item of the week. We've got different names for this. I bet you most people have one of these, Alan, but I guess tell people what I'm holding
some
up.
type or another. Well, you have a what is known as a push blade scraper.
Okay.
That's what we've always called it, and that's because it's got the little safety on it on the top where you can push the razor blade out the front end.
Yeah.
And you can scrape stuff like my number one use for that is paint off of glass.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say something, too, with regard to the glass. I actually use something similar to remove window tint.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
I mean,
very
it's
handy.
good for glass because you can push. You don't really, unless you. Well, okay. For one thing, here's the thing. We should make another point. If you have one of these, I'm sure you know what they look like. They're about 4 inches or 5 inches long. They're a couple inches wide, and it basically has just the good old fashioned razor blade that comes out of it, and you can push it and close it. But really, what you should also have along with this is a pack of clean, fresh razor blades, because these things wear out fast.
Yes.
And a dull razor blade is a dangerous razor blade. But also, if you're scraping the glass, Max, if this thing has the slightest little, bend or this little curve or whatever, you could scrape, you could scratch it. So that's why you want to keep just nice, clean razor blades on there. But I have to make a confession about this. Well, I don't really apologize. I don't care. I mean, it's my job, so I did it. But the other day, the reason I brought this in is because the other day I actually used one of these. I painted some cabinet doors with oil-based paint, and when I got there the next day, little bit, how the little bits of fibers, little bit of fuzz floated through the air and landed on it. And I'm not going to sand that, and I'm not going to take my fingernail and remove every one of them. So believe it or not, I took this and very gently pushed it across the surface of this cabinet door, and doors. I had like 20 of them, and cleaned them all up, and they were as smooth as could be. I had one tiny nick, and I touched it up, and it was no big deal. I am not telling you to do this, folks, because it's very easy to butcher that up, and
yes,
yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. But in a pinch, I used it. So
Yeah, the strangest thing I've ever used the razor blade scraper for was spun sugar.
Sponge. Okay, I'm trying to picture. So you use
on a
food
countertop,
application
on a countertop,
yeah,
trying to get those tiny little stray bits of. In this case, it was a candy making exercise, and you get those and they're just like speed bumps on your counter. I found that gently and easily that you could just ease those right on up, and then spray your counter down with your cleanser and get the rest of it up.
What kind of counter was it? Because
Formica.
Okay,
Like I said,
that's another one of those. Boy, you better
carefully. Yeah, but I've done it.
Yeah, it works. I mean, it works. And Max, I know. Yeah, getting the tint off your windows. It's. I definitely think everybody should have one of these in their home.
Now, when I did the tint off of my window too, I also used it in conjunction with this window tint cleaner sprayer. And so with these, is it also good to work with proper lubricants in addition to using the razor?
The proper cleanser, yes.
The proper cleanser.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, because you might want to kind of grease the skids a little bit, so to speak.
Similar logic to why manly men don't use their knives anymore just to shave, because you get razor burn.
Yeah, I can't imagine shaving with this or a knife or anything. I've seen that in the movies and all that. That never looks really pleasant.
That
to me,
doesn't look happy.
Okay, all right. So there we go. That's the must-have item of the week. I didn't mention this at the top of the show, but I'm looking across at my co-host here, and I do have to wish you a happy anniversary. Folks, 10 years ago, Allan and I started on the radio together. Now, it wasn't Tool Talk Radio, but we started a show called Geek Tank Radio, which is on our sister station, 98.1 The Max, on Sundays. We didn't start off there. We started off on another network, but Allan, it was only 3 years later that we began doing a home improvement show, and then eventually we changed the name to Tool Talk Radio. And folks, I would say go back to our archives and listen. I mean, we're not kidding. We do. So what are we up to? That is, my math is correct. That's 7 years of Tool Talk Radio.
It's 17 years of radio shows, Joe.
Yeah.
17 years.
And so
10
it is
congruous. We've outlasted most marriages.
Yeah. And we're still going strong. But yeah, I just want to say, it was pretty cool. if you're out there and you've been listening for longer than I'd love to know how long ago you discovered Tool Talk Radio. And anyway, but we're not going anywhere. I got news for you, folks. We're still going, and we've got big plans for the future. But happy anniversary, sir. Because
to you as well.
But and Max, you were around in some of those early days behind the scenes.
Just in a different capacity.
We've known you for quite a while, so.
Yeah, we've met.
Yeah.
Now, Joe, don't we have some unfinished business to take care of?
Probably. What is it? So
for the winner of International Ideas Month.
Oh, yeah. Max, we're going to let you name the winner. So.
Well, Danny, for your idea, again, with squirrel defense, we'd like to wish you a very happy we'd like to wish you congratulations in that respect.
Okay, because, Danny used hardy board to cover the breach in his house, and we're hoping that they won't chew through it. But, Danny, we'll be getting in touch with you to let you know about how you can pick up your Tool Talk Radio prize pack.
We're going to send it to you.
Okay, we're going to come back and talk about a tool tale.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
You've got paper and you've got paint. A deadly combination! Let me show you.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Okay. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, it's a pretty stacked day in terms of noteworthy holidays. We have National Peeps Day, and if you have a hatred for peeps like I do, feel free to weigh in. I don't know. They give me a headache. I never liked the texture of those things. I don't know. I'm sorry, Allan. It's just not my thing. Even as a kid, I never liked them. So today is First Contact Day. 38 years from now, we are going to meet the Vulcans, which will be cool. Today is Handmade Day. We would love anything you've made by hand, anything on the table, if it's tasteful, because I'm thinking of Deuce. I don't know that I want to see what he made by hand.
I do.
Okay. Send us pictures, and we'd like to see that. But Max, you left out something. Today is a very practical holiday that I think needs to be mentioned at least. So
National Flash Drive Day.
Who doesn't need a good flash drive? I got like 6 of them. I'm sure
like
you got
jar
a bunch.
of them at home.
Right. But Allan, you said something off the air that I think needs to be repeated on the air because you've been, you're way more techie than I am, and you've been following this since the beginning. And to be honest, I don't even understand how a flash drive works. I'm just glad that it does. But you were with a bunch of eggheads back in the day, right?
Well,
when was this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We were designing DTK computers back around 1988, 86, 88, 89, 90, around through there. Yeah. My first computer was tangentially associated with Holiday Inns back in 1974 through 76.
Okay.
Yeah, don't do the math, people. I'm old. So
yeah, but what did you say? You said you held something. You were talking about how much memory this device held.
I attended a DTK Builders Conference back about 1988 or so, and I actually held up in my hand and I said, this is the brand new Seagate brand hard drive, and it breaks the 32 megabyte barrier. Ooh, was a 40 megabyte drive. That's MB, not terabyte. It's
right.
MB. And I actually used the words, this hard drive is larger than the average consumer will ever use.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Now we're up to 2 terabytes.
God.
More than terabytes.
I got pictures on my computer now bigger than that whole hard drive.
One picture could be bigger than that.
What comes after a terabyte?
Oh, don't ask Allan. He'll start answering. So,
a lot.
Okay.
A something byte.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, that's on the table today too. But it's interesting that we have these ideas, and then the future always unfolds in a different way than we expected. So, don't try to predict things too much, I guess.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, let's shift gears.
And now, Tool Tales with Tool Talk Radio.
All right. I'm calling this a tool tale for lack of a better term. But okay. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think minutes ago I was hearing the thunder outside. I mean, it looks like the bottom is about to fall out there. It's another day of storms ahead of us. We've had storms all week. Some people are really getting hammered with the tornadoes and everything. So, but Allan, I was thinking about something. Okay, what do you think of this idea as far as tool tales? What about preemptively purchasing things that you may need when there's a crisis. And what I mean by that is, okay, I'm thinking back to an ice storm. I want to say it was the ice storm of 2022. We were one of probably thousands of other people here in the Mid-South that the power line fell and it yanked the power line out of our house and it damaged what I believe is called the weatherhead, right?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
And the electricians there was a run. In other words, there was a run on weatherheads. And a weatherhead is pretty simple from what I can see. The wires go into it. It forms like a little,
it's a barrier.
It's a little barrier just to protect and keep the water out and everything like that. And to me, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, this thing can't cost more than $40 or $50. But if you need it, you need it. The guy that was fixing our electricity, it took 2 days before he could track down a weatherhead because they had all been bought up. Well, why not just go buy one and leave it in your garage or something? And maybe there's some other items like that when there's a run on them, you want to have it in advance because you're not going to find them.
That kind of reminds me of something that I do with my car where I have, like when I buy like spare parts and everything, it usually comes with doubles. Like I had this thing on my Nissan Pathfinder called a shifter cable bushing go wrong. And so I have an extra one just in case that goes out, or there's like extra caps or like extra things. So like, like for your tire and everything, those little caps there too. So having critical redundancy, so to say, for your household necessities.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like, Allan, you probably do this anyway, right? I mean, especially in your field, right?
Well, yes. It is like if you go to a hotel, motel, or hospital or a nursing home or something like that, there are certain things required by whoever their governing agency is that are required. You just have to have some extras. If your facility has a indoor sprinkler system, you have to have a few extra sprinkler heads, and you got to have a sprinkler head wrench.
Yeah.
You got to have these things on hand.
There's probably a special wrench for it, right?
Because like if we have a really brutal cold snap and suddenly we've got broken sprinkler heads all over town, well, you may not be able to get a sprinkler head for a week.
Right.
But you got to have sprinklers. So there are any number of kits. You can go online and look up, bug out kits and home kits and emergency kits. But I'm going to say, all right, this is kind of a confess your lifestyle type thing. Do you got pets? Okay, well, you're going to need some extra pet food.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as kind of the grocery store idea goes, you got one to go and one to show.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? That means when you open this bag, sometime over your next shopping cycle, pick up an extra bag and put it back in storage. That way you're never on the last of something.
Yeah, because you might think you have a full box of something and you're down to 2 bites left.
Well, anybody with teenagers knows you trust nothing because they've eaten everything but the last 2 Captain Crunches.
Right.
And they've put the box back on the shelf.
There you go. Did you have something, Max?
I was just going to ask, like, in terms of, like, there's too much of stuff that you might need and everything. Like, you probably don't need, like, everything in doubles. And so what would you say in terms of priorities someone should have in their house, like in terms of doubles or even triples?
Of anything that turns something off. It is usually the big thing. And I'm usually talking really cheap stuff. Things like faucet caps. They're like 89 cents.
Right.
But if something were to happen, we have one of these sudden cold snaps, or somebody runs into something and now the faucet won't turn off.
Right.
Rather than just leaving it running until you can get a plumber out there, you can go stick a cap on it, or you can put a cap on the end of a hose and put that on there. There are ways of just stopping certain things. Biggest thing I think every homeowner should have on hand, know where it is, and have it in a prominent place, and that is a water key.
Boom. If you weren't going to say it, I was.
And that is, I preach this constantly.
Everybody in your house, I don't care if they're 6
Needs to
years
know
old,
where
needs to
it
know how to
is.
turn the main water
Yes.
off. And
turn off the water, stop the damage.
if you're lucky, you have a handle in the house where you can just turn it and boom, the water's off. But not everybody has that. Sometimes you got to turn it off from the street.
That's the convenience of being able to shut off the water is kind of a modern idea. It really didn't come around until about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Everybody else, for the last 100 years, we've put a shut-off switch out by the street.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Be able to get into that, be able to shut off your water. Of these days, also having some kind of portable power station, some kind of battery backup.
That's right on my. It's like Allan is psychic. That's right here in my notes.
Psychotic, maybe. Again, you can go to your local big box store. You can go to your basically your giant stores that carry a little bit of everything, or you can go online, and they are all over the map as far as price goes.
Oh, yeah.
For one of my job sites last week, we have all of these little emergency lights that are all rechargeable.
Mm-hmm.
And for when you're working in a building that doesn't have any electricity, these things are absolutely a gift because you flip them on and you got plenty of light.
Right.
They're cheap. They're at your big box store. They're like $9 a piece. But I needed a way to charge like a bunch of them at a time.
Yeah.
And they had one of these cheesy, as seen on TV, little power tower stations. And I hate to report, but that thing works fantastic. I got 6 lights all plugged in and charging at the same time.
That's what we want. So, all right, we got a few more of these things. I think this is good. This is a good policy, being a homeowner and doing this. You'll make it easier on your contractor that has to fix this stuff, too. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And we have radon coming from below. We have asbestos in the ceilings. These are silent killers.
You are the silent killer.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just keeping score, there's a lot of holidays. I'm not going to recap them all because it would take half the show. But then also, Drew texted in and said that today is National Caramel Day.
Correct.
I think anybody can just make up a holiday.
So you want to get diabetes and you want to lose your teeth today.
Yeah, because the Peeps thing. And you, Max, you were telling me they have Peeps eating contests. That sounds like that actually could kill you, Allan.
There's a song that from my childhood that goes "Dumb Ways to Die,"
Yeah.
and I think that's a dumb way to die.
Because I wonder what happens if you're just jamming all that marshmallow in your stomach. And
It's
then,
just corn syrup and gelatin and air.
But couldn't it expand or like gunk up and
it's
cause
not gonna,
blockage?
No.
It's definitely going to give you a headache and a stomach ache.
There's some great Mythbusters episodes about the child who allegedly died from Pop Rocks.
Oh, I heard that.
No, the
Where they
human
blow up your
stomach is a lot tougher than you think it is,
Well,
and can be expanded greatly.
We're
So,
not encouraging you to test this theory either, but
No, I don't
We're talking to
understand.
you. We're talking to you, Joey Chestnut.
Yeah, you see, I love food way too much to ever be a competitive eater.
I just think it's
I
the most.
enjoy my meal too much, obviously.
You
but
know,
oof.
I believe in human dignity, and that is one of the most undignified things there are. Just eating, gorging food. Those
It's
bug
kind
me.
of scary.
So before the break, in our tool tales, for lack of a better term, we're calling this a tool tale. We were talking about preemptively getting items that you might need in an emergency, and mostly what I'm thinking in terms of these are items that there's going to be if we have an ice storm, or if we have Hurricane Elvis, there's going to be certain items that. Even if you're not, somebody may be saying, well, I don't know how to put a weatherhead in, or I don't know how to repair busted pipes or anything. It doesn't matter. If I had a weatherhead sticking, in my garage, then, because I told you a couple years ago, we lost power and we were waiting 2 days while our electrician tracked down a weatherhead. Right. Well, if I owned one, I could say, well, here, you can use this one.
Right.
And get down to business. And so there's some items that I don't think a contractor would mind if you had those, and I mean, even if they're doing the installation, if they're brand new and they're functioning. So I feel like that's what I'm thinking of, like those shark bite repair kits for your pipes and things like that. And
Now-
go ahead.
Now, I
Max.
do have a question because I know with saving items and everything that some things can go bad if they aren't used properly. Is there anything in the realm of tools and repair that could go bad if you don't use it and you just bank it?
I don't know. I mean, maybe something made out of rubber, like a gasket or something.
Or like
if
something
you store it
liquid.
in your attic. I mean, definitely store everything at room temperature. If you can keep it in like a cabinet in your kitchen or something, I think that's the best temperature wise. But
When we're talking like something like a weatherhead, that is actually designed to last for decades.
yeah, I mean, it's metal, right? It's like, what else?
We're talking about a water key that's made out of metal. No big deal. I tell you one thing that has greatly improved emergency preparedness accidentally is the fact that so many people have now gone to battery operated equipment.
Oh, yeah.
So many of your tools and that kind of stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, there's something called a power inverter. These are very cheap. They're $39 to $59, at your big box store. And they will allow you to take your 18 or 40 volt or 56 volt batteries
Right.
that you use on your tools and plug a home device into them.
Well, I got a question about that because in my relentless research last night, and actually my wife was helping me look this up. So I haven't seen this at the big box store yet, but I'm sure it'll be there soon. She found there's several brands, and these are basically a beefed up version of what you're talking about, Alan. They're battery powered generators, they're calling them, but they're bigger. They're probably about they're not as big as like a gas generator or anything, but basically these things can for one thing, you can charge them up in an hour and a half.
Right.
Fully charged, and then they'll give you 12 hours of battery power for, you could run an air conditioning, a little window unit and some lamps and a TV and a refrigerator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, and also you could charge it up and power some of these items if you want to give yourself a break on your utility bill or something like that. Kind of like it's a smaller version of the home battery thing. But have you seen this? Because I'm guessing if they're doing 12 hours now, by next year they'll be up to 24 hours or, This seems like in a pinch.
At the last home show I was at, they had a vendor there that was doing everything from the, hey, here's your portable version all the way to here's your house version.
Yeah.
So the technologies for portable batteries has greatly, greatly increased over the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
So, these are not bad ideas but, the thing is also remember to make the most out of what you already have on hand. Do you have a good roll of duct tape?
Yeah.
Let's just be honest. The ultimate survival tool of all time will always be a good roll of duct tape.
Yeah.
Now, does duct tape ever lose its adhesive power or potency over time if it's just stored? Because I know, if you stick tape to somewhere, it's going to eventually crumble and fade and just peel off. But does duct tape have an expiration date, so to say?
I think so.
It will. It will oxidize if you take it out of the wrapper. If you don't take it out of the wrapper, this is your backup, not the one you're currently using.
Oh, yeah, because you were saying the idea of show and...
You got one to go and one to show.
That's it.
So
keep it at room temperature, though. If you put it in your garage that gets really hot, then really cold, and lots of humidity,
that can be. Well, you should have a secure area that just has things you need to grab in the emergency.
Right.
So you can have like a little lunchbox or a little toolbox there that says the emergency stuff.
Yeah.
And you would have a couple of shark bites to where you could fix a pipe. You would have a pipe cover or say faucet cap where you could turn off leaky water. Your water key would be hanging on the wall right there next to it. I would also include in there a decent pair, at least one set of gooseneck pliers. Not regular pliers. I'm specifically going to tell you gooseneck because it is a much more versatile tool.
It's funny how much stronger of a grip you get on those babies.
It
too.
is.
Yeah.
It's and everybody knows what I'm talking about. Regular pliers are the ones that just have the grips in the front. This is the one that kind of turns to a side a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If you squint real hard, you can see why they call it a gooseneck.
Yeah.
And they're at every hardware store on the planet by the millions. And it is shocking how many uses you can find. And it doesn't have to be a big pair, just a nice small little pair that you can get your hands on quickly.
Yeah.
Because that is the easiest way to crimp something, bend something, open something, twist something open. And it's never hurts to have a little small, one of those little tiny cans of WD-40 on hand.
Yeah.
Just cuz.
I was going to say WD-40 because it's been a lifesaver in my household. Like for things that are like squeaky, or for me, I use it with my knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And, a decent knife, a little foldy knife, a little box cutter type thing. So, there's just a lot of tiny little simple things that if you know where they are, it's not a bad idea to build a little toolbox and kind of go, I got a weatherhead in it.
You know what else
I
is
got
nice?
a this. I got a that.
Go ahead, Max.
I got a question because we were talking about like essential items. I was going to also include something with like ratchets because so what I was going to ask is what are some of the essential ratchet head sizes to have for your home? Because I know with cars they have certain ratchet sizes, but for homes, what are their sizes?
10 millimeters and ½ inch. I'm going to say that for sure. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, pretty much down the center. But again, if you've got a decent adjustable gooseneck wrench, you've got all those sizes covered.
Well, here's the other thing. This is the last thing I'll say about the weatherheads and things like that. Okay, maybe your power is fine and you had this big emergency. Well, what if your neighbor or your daughter-in-law or somebody, what if theirs is out? It's a nice feeling to know you could help them.
Yes.
Say, hey, I got you a weatherhead, and then you just, resupply later and everything. And so, I don't know, there's something you can watch out for your neighbors and help them as well. So,
well, it's kind of a pay attention to your area and what was the last thing you wound up lacking? And that is probably your best clue as to what maybe you should have one extra of.
right.
And if you need something for cold weather, the best time to buy it's the summer.
Yeah.
If you need something for hot weather, the best time to buy it is like now.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Yep.
And you were saying know your lifestyle. What I would also add to that is know your home too, because everybody's home has its own personal, let's just call them defects that always go wrong at a particular season.
Oh yeah, we have we have about 15 trees that are, I don't know, they're within 10 feet of the power line going down the back of our property. So it's like it's like a Russian roulette. One of them is going to fall on the line. So it's
Joe,
like-
you actually remind me of like an old cartoon where the trees are throwing things at you.
Yeah.
As you go through. You kind of live in a forest, by the way. So
it's not my tree, but it's the neighbors.
It's
but,
all the
whatever.
neighbors around you, but you do live an indoor. I'm
Yeah.
surprised you don't have Ewoks.
Yeah, exactly. Also, this is National Handmade Day, and I think we should sometime today share some of our favorite things we've made by hand. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Ow! Those gears down there really hurt.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. In a minute, we're going to get to a question. Well, I guess it's an Ask Allan question, but it's from the mind of Max. And also, if we have time, we have a second thing from the mind of Max. You don't want to dwell too much in there because you don't know what you might find. So
It's
we
kinda
like to
bare.
tread lightly in there.
It's kind of bare in there. Yeah.
Before we do, though, this is very on brand. Boy, this is something very relevant. We want to talk about our friends over at Groundworks. They are all about the protecting the foundation of your home, and we all have different foundations. Some of us live on a slab. Some of us have a basement. Some of us have a crawl space. Some of us have a situation like Allan where you have an above, what do they call it, above and below.
And over and under.
And over and under, you have a finished basement, which has its own dynamics, right?
Yes.
And so I've known people that have half finished and half unfinished. You go through a door, it looks like a coal cellar, you come out. But anyway, all of it needs to be protected. Anything that's coming in contact with the ground. And the thing about foundation issues or crawl space issues or basement issues is the problems can manifest themselves in ways that to you seem unrelated. You might have a really musty, weird smell in your house, or you might have ants that congregate, or you might have an odd crack above a door, or hopefully you don't have those stair-step cracks in the brick outside your home.
Yeah.
But all of those can represent problems with your foundation, and you do not play games with your foundation. You have to address it. Just be prepared. But also the good news about foundation problems is it's not always the nuclear option. But especially when we have weather like we've had for the last weeks, that's when it can really reveal foundation problems. Maybe maybe you don't have the right kind of gutters. Maybe you have water washing in from your downhill into your house from your neighbor's house or something, and it's starting to erode. Well, you need a foundation expert, and there's nobody better than our friends over at Groundworks. They come out. For one thing, it's a free inspection. You cannot beat that. You're getting all of the resources and all of their expertise. And they're going to walk around your home. They're going to inspect the problem, and hopefully it's not too bad of a problem. But either way, they'll have a solution for you, and then you can move forward with the peace of mind knowing that your foundation is protected. So get in touch with the good folks at Groundworks. Go to their website, groundworks.com, and book your free inspection today. All right. Well, Max, you were. This is highly relevant. This is right on brand with the weather right now. So,
well, when I was driving home the other day, when I saw like the water pouring through like the drainage ditches and everything, it made me think like, why are these ditches placed in the way that they are? And the better question is why do they seem to fail sometimes? I'm reminded of like flooding that we had over by like Summer Avenue or whatever. Like people are like, not necessarily hydroplaning, but it basically looks like they're recovering from the floods of a hurricane. So it's like, why is it arranged in that way and everything? Like, what's the strategy and how could we strategize better
for storm runoff and
exactly?
Yeah. So, but Allan, you said we're actually a pretty good.
Of Memphis is for those of you listening outside of the Memphis area. Memphis was originally a swamp. Just basically, and that's not a bad thing because other notable cities are also swamps. So that'll be Chicago, Houston, New Orleans,
Venice.
There's a lot of cities out there that you got to have water to have a city. You've got to have some kind of usable liquid. The problem is, heaven help us, if you live out in the desert, a rainstorm 60 miles away can flood your house.
Oh, yeah. I remember living in Phoenix. It would rain once a year, but when it did, man, it washed
and it
mudslides, everything.
And it didn't have to rain at your house.
Right.
It could rain dozens of miles away, and, here it comes. So right now in Memphis, we're getting a lot of rain this week. Well, I kind of, all right, if you're listening in Vicksburg, guess what? We're getting a lot of rain in Memphis.
Yeah.
It's coming down to see you.
Yeah.
So this is where the water's going to go. So, yeah, Max, you are exactly correct. When you begin urban planning you basically have got two circulatory systems you got to worry about. Actually, three. One, you do have to get water to your residence. That's part of your municipality. Where is that water sourced from? Cleaned, pressurized, and how do we get it to you? Then we have a water system that is the water you touched, the water you bathed in or you cooked in or you put something down the sink. That water has to go to some form of treatment because you have now contaminated it.
Yeah.
You don't want the streams to cross.
Well, and there's a lot of reasons why.
Because back in the day, didn't sewage, and we're talking way, way back in the day, sewage.
You mean 10, 20 years ago? Yeah.
No, I mean, could overlap, and that was not a good system.
That was a bad system.
Yeah.
We'll start with the word cryptosporidia. What was happening in your dear city of Chicago, who gets their water from a Great Lake,
Yeah.
is that cattle farms they didn't realize were upstream from them. Well, everybody looks at a lake and they don't think of the lake as having water flow or direction.
Yeah.
It's a lake.
It looks stationary. But
Well, it's a Great Lake. It's kind of like an ocean. It's got currents and streams and water moves. And the cattle water was easing down to Chicago
yeah.
and bringing you things you didn't want.
Right.
So here in Memphis.
Can I say one thing, Alan?
Absolutely.
Moving on, because I had a whole new change of heart once I had kids myself.
Yep.
When I was a kid, if I'm being honest and if I'm confessing, we used to go hang out in swamps. We picked up frogs, then we'd go eat without washing our hands or anything like that. But today, whenever there's a storm like we've had here, you'll see somebody post a video and they're showing all their kids playing out in their flooded front yard. And they're, oh, look at little Billy riding his bike through this 2-foot deep puddle and everything.
Yes.
And I'm like, if you're a parent, man, I there was no way I would let my kids do that, because you're thinking there's sewage mixed with that water, right? And think of the disease they're exposing themselves to. And it's like,
Well,
I don't want to sound like that guy, but I'm sorry, man.
Well, that only happens if you have a puncture between the two systems.
But how do you know? Plus,
Well-
you could have all that lawn fertilizer. You could
Well,
have
there's
manure.
your real
You could have
one.
all this stuff, and
Yeah,
don't let little Billy
That
run
now
around
you're
out
getting
there. Yeah.
into what's really happening, because
Yeah.
of when Memphis, we're going to go back about 150 years. Memphis was one of the early cities to adopt a sewer system.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to build the neighborhood. So Max, you and I are going to look at the urban planning of this. And one of the things we're going to look at is gravity and the topography of what we got. So how high up are we? Where are we in the water table level? And where can we send this water the easiest way possible? And that is really a massive part of urban development and civil engineering, because you're going to have to do something with the water. This is why a lot of office parks have got beautiful lakes in them. That's for water runoff, because I got no
there you
place
go.
else to put the water.
Right.
And I've got 80,000 square feet of parking lot.
There you go.
Well, guess what? That water has got to go somewhere.
It's interesting when you're looking at like a road or like a city or a structure, when you realize we're not as flat and we're not as high up as you might think, because water is like evidence of something is pooling, and like we're a little bit we're uneven in terms of like our foundation. And so it's just pretty fascinating how water could be a good gauge, but as well as your enemy.
Yeah, it's a great equalizer, isn't it? So, okay. Well, guys, hour one of Tool Talk Radio is in the can, but I'm sure we're going to continue some water talk when we come back. And also, we want to get to our the history of great building materials for wood, part 2.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkomedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, well, for one thing, boy, I hope you're able to tune in, and I hope everybody's staying safe out there. I just looked out during the break out the window, Allan, and it's here at the station. It's calm. It's not rainy, but boy, up north, it sure looks menacing over there. I mean, it still looks pretty gloomy and overcast, but hopefully everybody's staying safe up there.
Well, as we love to say, the bottom falls out. I'm going to say it didn't fall out yet, but it sure is sagging.
Yeah. Well, when is this going to end? I mean, we got
Sunday night.
thank goodness.
We still got some what are we going to say? Liquid sunshine to get through till we see real sunshine on Monday.
Okay. Well, hey, from the mind of Max, he was asking, we were learning a little bit about city planning and storm drainage and storm runoff and everything. And but Max, you had another one that I think will lead really nicely into Allan's week in review. But you had another question for Allan, or well, no, I think this was for the whole listeners.
Well,
at
I
large,
thought we
right?
had something I thought Allan had something first to kind of conclude
Oh,
point
okay. Well,
about
let's stay on
grass.
point then. So,
Well, yeah, let's talk about those storm drains.
Okay.
The biggest thing about the storm drains is they are not connected to any form of reclamation.
what do you mean, sewage?
That means they are not being treated. It's rainwater.
You're
So
just pushing it somewhere else.
We're just sending it. In our particular case, it's going to wind up in the Mississippi River.
Yeah, because the Mississippi's really high right now. I
Well,
don't know the last time you.
But that's
drove
pretty much
downtown
where
and
all
looked
of
at- yeah.
our storm and sewer water goes.
Right.
Now, not municipal sewer. We're talking storm sewers.
Okay.
Because never should the twain meet.
Yeah, we want to keep those separate.
We want to keep contaminated waters, which is anything a human has touched, we regard as contaminated for whatever reason, and it goes off to be basically recycled and treated.
Right.
Storm sewers, on the other hand, are designed to efficiently drain the city on a day, especially like a day like today, where you're going to get maybe an inch or 2 or 3 of rain.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing here is, and nobody thinks about it when they're out there cutting the yard. And nobody thinks about it when they're not bagging up their grass clippings or their leaves. And they're just kind of, there's a sewer opening right here, so we're just going to kind of shovel it down there.
Now, who's doing that? I'd be horrified that
Oh my
somebody's
gosh,
actually
there's
doing
so many
that.
people in this town.
Really?
What they don't understand.
Even I know you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
But- okay.
and this is the other thing. If you have a storm sewer opening in front of your property, please keep it clean. And I know the next words out of everybody's mouth is going to be, well, the city does that. Well, the city can do that if they can get to it and somebody reports it and they get there, or your house can get flooded.
Yeah.
I really don't like the option of my house getting flooded. So be kind. Go out there and clear that off.
Yeah.
Speaking of foliage and like plants and stuff with regards to that, we got a good text from Robbie, and boy, do I not envy him.
Okay.
He said, here's a good example of a bad water grade. Flower beds are taller than the foundation, causing water to come into the home. And
Yep.
he sent a photo.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it looks
yeah.
awful.
Yeah, there we go. It's funny you say that, Robbie, because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, okay, when you build something or when you plant something, you might have just changed the whole dynamic of where that water's going to go.
Yeah, you did.
You really got to think about it. And it's when it's a bright, sunny day and it hasn't rained in 2 months or whatever, and you don't think about it until the rain comes. But yeah, that's getting into our foundation.
Tell you the
and
number of
everything.
arguments I have had with clients over the last 40 years
Yeah.
over, I don't care how cute it is.
Yeah, that's going to
You're
be a
going to
problem.
drown.
Right.
You're going to drown.
And, you know, a flat place like this, too, I'm thinking is tricky because if you are a home builder, let's suppose you're a developer and you're going to put 40 homes in this big empty lot. Well, you got to think of where every bit of that water is going. And you can't flood your
Absolutely.
neighbor's house. And you can't, I don't know. Every time you build something, it changes.
Every
the
time you
water
put up
flow.
a fence,
Right.
you change the water flow. Every time
Yeah.
So yeah, water flow is such a massive topic. And I'm going to say, don't make it worse. Don't put paint and oil in the storm drain.
Oh, gosh.
Don't put your
yeah.
grass clippings down the storm drain.
I'm also talking about Frank Lloyd Wright intentionally using falling water.
Yes.
He's just asking for trouble.
So
Yeah, what happens when that gets backed up? But
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I'm just pointing out, don't do things that are going to come back to haunt you later. And I'm going to throw in again, if you've got a sewer grate in front of your property, be kind and keep it clear.
Well, it's funny you say that because I think all the flooding boils down to I just think the drains got clogged with whatever they got in town recently. I mean,
Well, you can't get so much water, even in Memphis, that the drainage can't handle it.
yeah.
However, the drainage, if it's flowing well, will catch back up as soon as the weather gives it a break.
Mm-hmm.
So Memphis drains fairly efficiently. Now, the further west you get, the more into the arid areas you get, especially I'll pick on Arizona or out in Colorado, some of these towns, they don't see that much water. It's like Memphis doesn't see that much snow. So
Right.
we don't have we don't have a Chicago level snow response.
Yeah.
We do the best we can with what we got, but we just don't see that much snow. And a lot of cities just don't see that much rain. And when they do get clobbered, they get clobbered pretty hard.
Right.
Memphis, we're used to rain. And as long as we haven't done something to ourselves, it will drain.
Yeah.
It will catch back up. So Memphis is fairly, as far as most cities go, Memphis is in fairly good shape. Just don't,
Keep the drains
don't
clean.
do something to yourself.
There we go. All right, Max, let's shift there because, man, we got a lot to get to this hour. But go ahead. What was your next point that you wanted to bring up?
This again came from me observing the everyday. So I was looking at ants. And I was thinking to myself, or I was even thinking about like termites and stuff. I don't have termites, but I was thinking about how, well, it seems like we make a big business out of exterminating these creatures and everything. But I'm thinking about, well, how can we harness the raw power of the pest in order to, the example that I actually thought about was when I was reading Walden by Henry David Thoreau. He was talking about how he kind of just let the pests be in his home. Not like he didn't like invite them in, but it's like if you're in here already, it's like I'm not going to shoo you out or kill you.
Didn't he live in a little hut in the woods?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, fair game. I mean, if he's going to live that way, I guess he's asking.
And then he
for
gave up and went back to the city.
I was going to say.
Let me point out how that book ends.
Now, Max, I have strong feelings about that. I'm all about harnessing the power of nature and teaming up with. Like I said, I've got a system for neighborhood security involving employing 200 or 300 falcons to protect all your home and the neighbor's home because they're very loyal. They'll swoop down and attack invaders and things like that. You're not sold on that one.
No.
I was thinking in terms of, like, this isn't necessarily pests, but in terms of, like, weeds and stuff. Like, I'm more compassionate to weeds these days. I kind of see their purpose. But I was thinking of, like, in terms of, like, defense of your home, you just, like, plant a bunch of thistles around your home, like, as sort of like a Sharpie barbed wire barrier.
I don't know if I like that because that stuff aerates, right? And now your neighbors are all going to have. I don't know, Max, but
if you don't like your neighbors, though, then that's fine.
I like the idea too, though, of having goats that come and you've got poison ivy overgrowing the back of the field there or something. Just get yourself rent 20 goats, let them take care of it, and that's a natural solution. And
Well, all right, let's kind of dive into this. All right, you are bringing up a very urgent urban question because we're not going to get rid of critters.
And I don't think we should. We shouldn't just wipe them out.
Well, the thing is, they're moving. All right, gosh.
I feel bad when I kill an ant.
All right, back in the 50s, after World War II, we began raising grass farms.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
Sterile little grass farms.
That's what our yard is a grass farm.
Your yard is a derivative of why you cut the grass around the castle. Because you cut the grass around the castle so you can see people sneaking up to rob you or kill you.
That's how the lawnmower was invented.
And
we did the history of that.
We did all, so with that in mind, the modern yard is under assault from a variety of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The modern yard is basically kind of a grass farm. However, in the last 40, 50 years, we have gotten kind of back to our victory gardens and that type of thing.
Yeah, a lot of people plant gardens in the neighborhood now.
People are gardening. People are growing plants. And you do kind of have to reach a detente with your critters. And notice I'm not using the word pest. They're only pest if they're doing something destructive to you. Well, seriously.
It is kind of, we're kind of biased.
Palmongo bugs, or the American cockroach, as we like to call them up here, are really big things. They fly. They're not going to hurt you, but they'll make you hurt yourself because they're huge.
Nobody wants them around. All
right. Well, but they don't want to be in your house either. They want to be out in the leaf litter.
Okay.
So there are certain pests that you have to consider are pests, and you have to take appropriate measures. Termites are going to eat your house.
Yeah.
You got to take appropriate measures. Certain types of ants are going to eat your house. You got to take appropriate measures. Fire ants are an invasive species. Eradicate. It's an invasive species.
Don't they serve a purpose somewhere?
In Brazil, not here. This is where you have to kind of be a little. You have to be a little bit more like a farmer, and you got to be a little bit tough.
Well, we'll see. But Max is trying to be the humanitarian here, and I've got some ideas about how we could befriend the mole. Critters like that.
Things like that, we can do that.
Maybe I'm just thinking of strategic extermination, too.
Strategic Extermination is the new name for my band. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
If you've cut yourself at all in the course of these tests, you might have noticed that your blood is pure gasoline. That's normal. We've been shooting you with an invisible laser that's supposed to turn blood into gasoline, so all that means is it's working.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Max is a weirdo. I don't know where he finds his stuff. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And as weird as Max is, he's also, he's a good-natured person. He's a humanitarian at heart. I kind of share his sensibilities, Allan. We're talking today about rather than eradicating pests, maybe there's a way to harness them, and maybe there's a way to partner with the pests. And
I'm just seeing like little ants on a treadmill powering the machine.
Yeah, I don't know. We're talking about how useful goats can be. It's
right.
A very, you were telling me off the air. You get 300 or 400 goats. You go to those 10 acres that are overgrown with whatever.
Yep.
2 days later, it's cleared out. It's
beautiful.
Fertilized. It's whatever.
It's gorgeous.
So,
yeah. Well, the name of the game here is basically the detente of your home.
Okay, what do you mean by that? Because
what
I like the word, but I don't know that I get your meaning.
All right. What I mean by that is, so we put out a hummingbird feeder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hummingbirds don't just live on nectar. They also live on gnats, mosquitoes, and small insects. So you attracted a big, pretty, for a mosquito, a big, pretty bird. For us, a cute, tiny little bird. But you've invited this bird into your yard, and they're going to hang around the little feeding station, but they're also performing their normal, natural task in the area.
Okay.
Squirrels are there to gather nuts and do their thing. You just don't want them doing it to your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, black widows, one of my favorite spiders in the whole world. They're absolutely beautiful, but you can't have them living in the garden next to the kids.
Right.
So you protect your home, but you do this efficiently. In other words, we're going to put a termite barrier on your home. We're going to put the chemicals in to stop the termites from eating the house. I don't really care if the termites eat the tree out in the woods, because that's their job.
Yeah.
But I'm going to protect my area. So the name of the game is do this responsibly, and you can kind of reach a detente. It's kind of like, this is my house, that's your house, and we can share the space in between, because I got news for you. Just a couple of weeks ago, and I live in a neighborhood. I don't live out in the woods. I live in a neighborhood. There had to have been 30 turkey vultures taking out what was left of a possum on the side of the road. Well, there was a possum in my neighborhood big enough to actually get hit by a car and attract 30 turkey vultures.
Right. Yeah.
In my neighborhood. So we have turtles and snakes and lizards. We have crows and all kinds of other birds. All these critters live here. I got bunnies. Now, of course, my backyard. Well, of course, my backyard looks like the garden that you're going to feed, do a food bank out of.
Yeah.
But I have, I've got cottontail bunnies that come and go in and out of my yard.
Yeah.
It almost kind of sounds like, in order to be successful with the critters, as you call them, it's almost like you have to create a vacuum between you and the rest of nature.
Well, the thing is, nature's fabulous in nature. You are not natural.
Oh, I disagree, Alan.
You don't want to live with nature. You don't want fleas and ticks.
No,
you
but we're part of nature. We're part of part of the natural order.
No,
yeah,
you're not. Because you built a big house, you poured a concrete pad, you got water, you got electricity, you got air conditioning. Dude, you ain't natural.
But see, this is a philosophical question because we built it out of materials from the earth. It's not like they just
concrete does
appeared.
not occur naturally.
So
rubber does not occur naturally. PEX does not occur naturally.
I feel like anything, even a computer, is a natural thing.
No, we are extrapolating from nature all of the things we do. And I point out to people, you don't really want to live with nature. What you want to do is enjoy nature. You want to facilitate nature, but you do need to have a certain level of separation because you can't have termites eating the house. You certainly don't want rats, mice, German or French cockroaches in your house. You certainly don't want a venomous spider living in the house with you. So you do have to take precautions. Joe, you certainly didn't want those 40 squirrels selling condos in your roof.
Well, I wasn't trying to kill them, though. I just didn't want them in.
You just wanted them out. But you got a brand new architectural roof.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay Hill. And that put a barrier between you and nature. You got a good, clean roof that put the squirrels back out in the trees and out of your attic.
So it was kind of interesting, though, what you said, kind of circling back to a previous point, is you were talking about a particular cockroach. It's like how, well, they don't want to be in your home. It's like you don't want them in your home, but they probably don't really necessarily want to be in your home either.
Correct.
Okay.
So deterrents, now you mentioned natural deterrents, what you plant around the house, these type of things. These are wonderful. And you can go to any search engine and type in of all the different plants that you can buy at your big box store and put in your flower beds and that kind of stuff that are anti-mosquito or anti-bug or anti-critter. One of my personal favorites is rosemary. I like to cook with it. It smells fabulous, and critters don't really like it that much. So it does give me a natural buffer that kind of says, I live on this side of it, and you live on that side of it.
Okay, you finally triggered me, and I finally figured something out. Okay, Max, because this whole thing started with the question of, can we partner with the pests?
Yeah.
Well, I think we can, and I'd like to. I don't want to just, slaughter 10,000 ants because they get on my, whatever. But you just said something, because you said that critters don't like rosemary, and if I recall a past episode, it's not like that they hate the smell of rosemary. It's more along the lines, the smell confuses their other senses and makes them vulnerable, right?
Right.
In other words, rosemary will shoo them away. We're not killing them with rosemary.
Right.
Well, maybe the way to partner with the pests is to create environments that just by the very nature guide the pests
away from your home.
rather than killing, and wiping out these termites. You put things in place that just kind of coax them in that way.
So good fences make good neighbors also applies to the animals too.
Yes.
And you could probably do it in a natural way. You could have herbs, and you could have certain things that just create. You talked about how raccoons hate a certain kind of lighting or certain sounds or whatever. So
I was thinking of something too. We got a text from our buddy Norman Rockwell. He says he lives out in the country, and purple martins are, my friend, mosquito eaters.
Yes.
Wait, what are those?
They're a bird.
Okay.
Like they're related to the chimney swift.
Purple martins?
Yes.
Okay. So
they're
there you go.
beautiful birds. Absolutely gorgeous.
And so part of creating good fences might also be building your home in such a way to where it encourages the creatures that you want, because that would keep the population of other animals at bay, like having an owl, encouraging an owl to come to your house, like
having a bat box.
Yeah, bat box.
I had a friend that just built a bat box with their cubs, his son's Cub Scout troop. And
now you're getting the vibe of how to coexist with nature.
There you go.
Again, back to strategic extermination.
Yeah. Well, no, we're not exterminating. Well, I guess we're exterminating the mosquitoes, right? We're kind of biased against certain creatures, if we're being honest.
Well, there's certain creatures that are very biased against us because basically they cause us to die.
Yeah,
I don't need a mosquito-borne disease or a rat-borne disease or something like that. So
Okay.
encouraging proper nature around you is always advisable.
Okay, Max. So I guess we can partner with the pests. So, all right. Well, boy, we got a lot to get to. When we come back in our history of great building materials, we're going to continue our conversation all about wood.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, today feels like one of those very organic shows. I mean, we've been talking about pests. We've been talking about harmonizing with nature, and we're dealing with flooding in the area and rain and sewer. You know, that's the way it is. Sometimes we're high tech. Sometimes we're just talking, nature.
Ground level,
street level stuff. So, and in keeping with that motif, in a minute, we're going to talk about wood. But before we do that, let's talk about our good buddy, Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. What do you got, Max? Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Play it a little louder, Max. Let me hear that. So, okay, folks, if you're just tuning in, you know that Jay Hill is not at all satisfied with his walk-up music, and we've been on the hunt for the last couple weeks trying to find the perfect song for Jay. I don't know. You think you'd like this one?
You want to know what this one's called?
Talk to me.
It's called Mingle with Swindlers.
Because the problem with Jay is he's picking all these expensive songs that are going to cost money by these artists that are big name, and we're looking for royalty-free music. So I don't think he's going to like that one, Max. Keep hunting.
I mean, he is mingling with swindlers, though.
Okay, but I like the name of that one. Anyway, hey, but if you've got forget the music for a minute. If you have any concerns about the exterior protection of your home, Jay Hill, that's what he specializes in, from roofing to gutters to siding to windows. Man, I mean, I bet he has not been resting during these storms. I have to believe the phone's ringing off the hook, and with good reason, because, well, for one thing, Jay is one of the top-rated roofers in this entire region. If you look it up, I mean, for one thing, he's always 5 stars with the Better Business Bureau. He's a GAF Master Elite Installer, and he is fully credentialed, which means he is fully insured. He is fully he has all of his technicians are trained and qualified, and that is a huge thing. You don't want to just invite somebody out into your property, especially dealing with the roof, unless they have those credentials. And also, what sets Jay apart is when it comes to roofing is he works with GAF, and these roofing systems are so sophisticated and so well engineered that they offer a lifetime transferable warranty. But we've seen this, especially this week, with all of this rain, how all of the exterior protection of your home has to work in harmony. The roofing, the siding, the gutters, the windows, they're all designed to function properly, and there's nobody better than Jay Hill. He also does all sorts of interior remodeling except kitchens. He doesn't want anything to do with your kitchen remodel. So, don't call him for that. But also, one other thing we want to mention is the fact that Jay is a former insurance agent. And the reason that's relevant is because, especially in situations like this, if you have some damage to your home and you're wondering if it's covered by your homeowner's insurance, Jay should be the first person you call. He's going to come out. He's going to give you a free consultation and see the situation. And if you do have a path forward with making a claim for your homeowner's insurance, it's going to save you thousands of dollars and help you get those repairs taken care of. So, and he even has great financing. He has 30 lenders at his disposal. We love Jay Hill. We love the optimism and the energy he brings to every project. And we just love having him be a part of Tool Talk Radio. And he encourages you to call him directly. So you can reach Jay at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, you guys, here we go. Let's get back into the conversation here.
And now, great moments in building history.
Well, it feels like a while. I think it was only 2 weeks since we brought this topic up. But as a subset of our great moments in building history, we're going to get back to our great moments in our different projects. But we thought it would be interesting to take a look at great building materials throughout history. And here at Tool Talk Radio, as you know, we never overlook the obvious. And we were talking about wood, because wood has many chemical properties. There's many structural properties that come from
Termites
building
love
with
it.
wood. Termites love it, but I mean, wood is we've been building with wood for thousands of years, and we're expanding. We're having larger wooden structures. We might even have 15-story skyscrapers built out of wood pretty commonly. But Allan, and then suddenly everybody was chiming in, and we thought, well, there's more to talk about here.
We're talking about instruments last time.
Yeah, we got into some really interesting conversations about like the Stradivarius violin and how certain guitars.
Yeah, Brazil wood on guitars. Like, they don't make Brazil wood guitars anymore, but they have such great resonance to them.
And there's any number of, I love the diversity of wood. There's so many different, one of my favorite things to do, that we have a great woodworking shop here in the Memphis area. And it's just, you go in there, just the smell, the texture. I love working with wood. I mean, I have since I was younger, but Allan.
Well, let's pick on our most popular kind of wood right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the yellow pine.
That's pretty much
Southern
the main
yellow
thing you're going to see at the
pine.
big box
Yeah,
store.
Southern yellow pine is sappy. It's got a lot of rosin in it. And in yellow pine actually is a whole family of different kind of pine trees.
Yeah. Sorry, I got a question. Because so when because we were talking about the fact that, like, for example, I'm working on a house that's almost 100 years old. When you tear open the wall and you look at some of those studs, those things are dense and they're thicker. And there's two things. Part of what we talked about last week is the fact that we talk about curing, and those saps and those resins inside the wood, they're hardening and they're actually strengthening the wood, right?
That is correct.
Or are they making it more brittle? Like, are they taking the flexibility out of the wood, or I don't know? But
well, as we pick on yellow pine, yellow pine is a high rosin, a high sap, if you will, a high rosin wood. Of some of your true purist, much like yourself over there, may say that yellow pine, fresh yellow pine, is a little more difficult to stain because, well, it is considered a soft building lumber.
Yeah. It's not my favorite wood for that.
It's not, but now, as you've pointed out, see different varieties of it, like Douglas or loblollies, because of the nature of the rosins, the older and drier that wood gets, the denser it becomes. And that's where you hear people talk about old ironwood. Yeah, we're out in the barn. That barn's been there for 75 years, Joe, and we're trying to drive a nail in it, and we almost can't get a nail into this stuff. And that is because it has really cured down and it's become very dense.
That reminds me of something, and we might have discussed this on the air before, but my sensei was discussing to me about, like, Joe staffs, like how older Joe staffs are actually hardier than newer ones because they've had more time to get pounded out, and so it's not as aerated as the fresh wood.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is very correct. I have a lovely white maple one at home that is pert near about equal to an iron bar.
I like maple. I like maple for my wood turnings. It's got a really nice density, and it's got still a little bit of flexibility to it. So.
Now it seems like we're talking about wood that's hardy, but I was thinking about wood that's a little bit more like brittle or like soft, like balsa, so to say. I know it has its purposes for like school projects or whatever, but can we use softer woods in conjunction with harder woods? Like, I'm thinking of like how you could like frame a certain structure with the harder woods that are like as foundations and beams and everything, and then as like soft filler in the middle, you could use softer woods.
Now wait a minute. Isn't that how plywood's made?
Well, I say congratulations. You just described half of the industry.
Yeah, Max. You're always asking the right question.
It's a good question. So let's stay at yellow pine and work our way in. So yellow pine is a relatively soft wood. You go to your big box store. That is a fresh wood that was sitting in a forest not that long ago.
Right.
And as you cut it, you fire up the saw blade and it starts going through it. You smell pine.
Mm-hmm.
It boof, big up, you smell the rosins, you smell the pine. Now, that sawdust that you make, also gets made at all different levels of making the wood itself. And even that sawdust gets reused. So it gets ground up even more fine. It gets used in other products. Other woods are specifically designed to become paper. Other woods are specifically designed to become toilet paper. Other woods are specifically designed to become cardboard. So any paper product, you're looking at a tree.
Yeah.
So any hybrid product, Max, that you're looking at from the construction industry, from MDF to particle board to plywood, is all often a mix of different densities and different directions.
Because I'm just thinking about like future projects and everything, like where there's like, once you wrap up your production and everything for like a home or whatever, I'm thinking like at the end of the day, I think the more that we evolve, the more we're going to learn how to properly utilize waste. Like utilize the sawdust, utilize the sawdust, utilize the spare concrete, utilize the spare lubricants or whatever. So
pretty much anything that is a cast off of a process is now got a purpose.
I thought that would also apply to cooking as well.
Trust me, we can make biodiesel out of leftover Mexican food. So we've got plenty going on, and wood is, of course, renewable. Now, the difference between wood 100 years ago and the wood you buy today is the wood that you buy today is farmed.
It's growing faster, in other words.
It is, a.k.a. we are providing that tree with the penultimate, or I should say the most favorable growing conditions possible. It's the right distance from another tree. It's getting the right amount of water, nutrient, space, and sunlight. Whereas before, if it had grown in an old growth forest, it would have been a little more deprived.
It's competing.
So
for
it
sun
would have
and
right.
water
It would have grown a lot more slowly and thus been much more dense.
So like an Olympian, we're raising a champion.
Yeah.
Well, we're raising it like we are raising it to grow quickly.
We're raising it with predictable results. We need to know this tree is going to take this long to grow, and then when we cut it down, we got to wait this long for the next one.
Well, and that's
that
why
way you can plan out years in advance.
Well, and that's where that suddenly leads us to our alternative woods. Well, like all of the different things Max has already brought up, this is where it ties in perfectly, because something like bamboo, which is actually a grass, grows very fast and can be used for a variety of these fill-in products.
Okay. Well, we're going to continue talking about wood when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio. And man, if we can squeeze it in, we're going to find out what Allan did this week.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The world is a question. This room is an answer. And the answer is no.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And if you're just tuning in, we're continuing our conversation about the history of great building materials, talking about wood. And off the air, I had sort of a revelation, you guys, about wood. Because, I mean, most people, I don't really know anybody that doesn't enjoy some sort of wooden object. We've used wood throughout history. Wood is sort of very connected with us, and I wonder if we gravitate towards wood in part, I don't know, from a psychological point of view, because wood is a lot like us. Every single piece of wood is individual. Wood is, wood grows, and it's funny because when I talk to my wife, when it comes to she's an expert with beauty products and things like that. When she's telling me about skincare and stuff, it sure sounds an awful lot like how I take, stain and finish wood and everything. There's a lot of very similar properties between us and wood, and maybe there's something there.
I mean, we
know.
form national identities around particular woods or particular trees, like redwoods here or beechwood trees in Japan, or I can't remember the ones in like Europe and everything, like in the Black Forest of Germany. So one thing about wood too is it's unlike a lot of other things that we build houses with, is it's very much alive like us, but it's also imperfect too, maybe we gravitate towards it because it's a reflection of us, beautiful yet imperfect.
Yeah, there's something there. But go ahead, Max, because I know we had some text. People are chiming in on this.
Well,
so.
did you want to get to the one that wasn't related to our current topic?
No, let's stick to our topic first. So what do we got topic-wise?
Well, thank you, Texter 5225 said, did you cover cross-grain movement and the difference between wood species? Plays well with breadboard table ends.
Not yet, but then we'll do that next week because
Jeez,
that's a fairly big big topic.
Wait, I missed cross-cut. What was it?
Cross-grain
Cross
movement.
grains.
Cross-grainings. Well, I don't know what they mean by that. I mean, I think I do, but explain. So what do you
Well,
mean?
you know, cross the grain or straight grain as how the wood grew, the direction, whether or not you're going to be, the
cross-cutting
strength
or
and-
ripping,
right,
you mean?
all
Or-
that
oh,
good
okay.
stuff, yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So, all right, yeah, I think I think we're going to continue talking about wood.
Yeah, we're going to be in this topic for a minute.
Yeah, that's Jack, by the way.
Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Hey, thanks, Jack, for chiming in on that. Yeah, stay tuned. I'm sure we'll
Not
get to
you.
that.
We named the monkey Jack.
Okay, what was the other?
Norman
text?
Rockwell for the win again.
Okay.
He was talking about wet table sulfur perimeter around your yard will help keep snakes out. That's pertinent to our discussion about like cooperating with creatures.
Yeah, we were talking about can we partner with the pests? Well, Max was talking about that, and at first it sounded like we were all about let's just exterminate them and everything. No, we don't want to kill anything, but even natural things like rosemary it'll push the pests away from your house, and you're not killing them. You're just sort of guiding them somewhere else. And maybe if you make your house real conducive to owls, then you don't have to worry about they'll take care of the squirrel population or things like that.
Well, it's a controlled détente. You have to attract what you want and repel what you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, Allan, I mean, I guess we do need to continue the conversation. We're not going to make this wood talk radio, but I do think there's something there. And I mean, really, we are very connected with wood. I mean, there's things where it's comforting to go to a forest. You feel connected. It's maybe there's part of that too. Like you feel more connected because trees are connected to the earth.
So tree hugger actually might have a relevance.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not about. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I'm a tree hugger, but I think we need to respect.
Well, it is a
trees
resource
and,
we can't do without.
Right.
It's a carbon. It is a carbon intense storage facility.
Mm-hmm.
It makes oxygen. It is part of the world we cannot do without. And the cool thing is, when you're flying over Memphis or flying in, it is amazing to see how green this city is.
Yeah, you
We
don't
have
even
a
know it's a
lot
city
of
down there
trees.
sometimes. You're like, where are the houses?
We are blessed. We are truly, honestly blessed in Memphis, our fair city here, that we've got good water, we've got a big river, we've got space.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're not hemmed in by a mountain. We don't have a big, prep. We don't have some horrible thing that prevents Memphis from going certain directions or exploiting certain natural resources.
Yeah.
We have an abundance here of, now we do get, we got to handle our wastewater. We got to be able to take care of our resources. We don't want to mess them up, and we don't want to mess stuff up for people downstream. So with proper management, we've got a lot going on. We've got good stuff in Memphis.
I got a question now because you just made me think of something else. So, okay, when we're talking about the different species of wood, and I'm really thinking of the different colors of wood. Because
Right.
if you go to there's a store here in town that I can't name because they're not a sponsor, but they're a great woodworking shop. When you go back there, you're going to see ebonies, you're going to
Yes.
see dark walnuts, you're going to see there's a wood that's purple. I forget the name of it. And one of my favorites, blood wood, which
Yes.
looks like blood. But I do have to say, when it comes to those woods with the really rich, deep colors, some of those you don't want to. When it comes to those, the sawdust is a little more. I don't want to say deadly, but it's more dangerous. Like in other words, and there's some woods you can't use without like a full respirator because if you
Correct.
breathe in that sawdust, it really is very dangerous.
It will
But
do things to your lungs, yes.
is the deeper color more? I guess what I'm wondering is, do you think there's any connection between the danger of the sawdust versus the color of the wood? Like, in other words, the properties of that? Do they,
Well, I think what you're getting at is that everything is a chemical.
Yeah, yeah.
And just because we use the words "it's natural" doesn't mean it's safe.
Yeah, and when you aerate it by causing dust and you're breathing it in,
as I tell everybody, there's nothing more explosive than a grain silo.
Oh.
Because the grain dust particles themselves, while grain, you might be able to light it on fire, but it doesn't explode. But grain dust will explode mightily. And, so anytime you're aerosoling or making something like that, never forget you are dealing with a chemical.
There you go.
I have a question. This is sort of scientific, but is there a way to kind of determine what the meatiness of the wood's going to look like before you cut into it, just by looking at the way the bark is arranged, like flimsier bark versus thicker bark?
Depending upon your knowledge of that tree,
I'm not a bark expert at all.
Well, but you're going to be an arborist on this, and one of the biggest things, especially in Memphis, is how solid is that oak tree?
Yeah.
Does it have does it have a type of mold? It's not the black mold that you don't want in your house, but it is a dark colored mildew that will hollow out your tree.
Yeah.
And make it much more vulnerable to cracking or falling over.
I'm just going to say, we got like 5 texts streaming in right now that we're going to have to get to next week, but I think it just shows that wood is very triggering for people.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get to those next week and we'll continue. But man, the clock just burned up today, you guys. We got to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddy, Allan Gilbreth, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.
Now go hug a tree.